Azure Private DNS Zone. A private DNS zone is a DNS namespace that can only be accessed by using virtual network name resolution, and that is scoped to a virtual network. Can have multiple registration virtual networks. DNS auto-registration. Feature that automatically registers a computer's IP address and host name with a DNS server, allowing the computer to be easily located on a network. Virtual networks can only have one auto-registration DNS zone. To register a public DNS hostname, you need either an MX or TXT record set up at TE registrar to verify. NS records to delegate the zone. Azure. Azure is a cloud computing platform and infrastructure created by Microsoft for building, deploying, and managing applications and services through a global network of Microsoft-managed data centers. Availability zone. An availability zone is a physically separate zone within an Azure region, providing redundant power, cooling, and networking. Availability set. An availability set is a logical group of virtual machines that are separated by fault domains. All the VMs need to be stopped before you can make changes. Virtual machines by default have internal.cloudapp.net as the DNS address. Azure Resource Manager. Azure Resource Manager is a management tool that provides a single deployment model and management interface for creating and managing Azure resources. Virtual Machine Runbooks. Scale up. A runbook is a set of automated tasks that can be executed in Azure Automation. Network Security Group. A network security group is a feature in Azure that allows you to manage incoming and outgoing network traffic. Need to be associated once created and assigned. There are 6 default rules, 3 inbound, 3 outbound. Anything other than the default, R, requires a custom policy definition. Can be attached to multiple subnets. Azure Policy. Custom policy definition. Azure Policy is a feature in Azure that allows you to manage and enforce compliance of your resources. Existing policies are not modified by newly created policies. Services will stay as is, unless explicit overrided. IP Flow Verify Azure. IP Flow Verify is a feature in Azure that allows you to check if a packet is allowed or denied to or from a virtual machine. Connection Troubleshoot Azure. The Connection Troubleshoot Azure tool is used to diagnose and repair problems with network connections. Connection Monitor Azure. Connection Monitor is a feature in Azure that provides network-level health monitoring for virtual machines. Azure Site Recovery Provider. Azure Site Recovery is a disaster recovery solution that helps you to recover from a disaster by orchestrating replication, failover, and recovery of virtual machines. Requires port 443 for communication. Deploy a configuration server in TE host environment. Install Site Recovery Unified Setup. This requires having a virtual network, a replication policy, Recovery Services Vault, and a storage account in advance. BitLocker needs to be disabled. Maximum size for site recovery is 2 TB for OS drives. Max data disk size is 4 TB. Recovery Services Vault. A Recovery Services Vault is a storage entity in Azure that houses backup data and configuration information for various workloads. You can restore a VM by using the Create New Restore configuration option. Region-based, so each region needs its own. The policies would also have to be applied per region. If you need to change which RSV is protecting a resource, the backups need to be stopped from the previous one. A temporary drive is mounted as the D drive on a recovered box. You can back up a VM which is offline as well. The fastest way to restore is stop the VM, detach the disk VM2, start VM2. Download the installation file for Azure Site Recovery Provider. Download the Vault registration key. Install the Site.RE Cover provider for the host. The key lasts 5 days. To restore from backup, you can select a restore point, throw the VM, restore the disks, the end deploy a template from RSV.